Well, we bring in Anthony Calvillo now, a man who in this country needs no introduction. The kid from Loapente joins us on video chat. How you doing, AC?
Good, Rod. How you doing?
Good, good, good. Long time no see. How are you, my friend? And how's the Calvillo family holding out these days?
We're good. We're isolated just like everybody else, so we're in the house. The kids have a routine here at home, and we try to stay as busy as possible.
That's good. What is your status right now, AC, in terms of football? How much you're looking forward to the 2020 season? What's your role going to be?
Well, I'm the offensive coordinator here in town for the University of Montreal. So right now we're just preparing the playbook with some of the adjustments that we had from last year, having meetings online with the coaches. But we do have a spring camp here at the end of April, but that's still up in the air right now because of what's going on with COVID-19.
AC, I've been talking to a lot of Western Canadian university football programs, and they feel that their existence depends a lot on the CFL. How does it for the Carabins, would you say? Does what the CFL do affect a lot of what you think you guys are going to do in your league?
Well, I mean, our seasons definitely start at different times. We start pretty much in August, but I think the most important thing is just to make sure that we're healthy enough and there's this infection is not going to bother anybody. We could go out there and get back to our normal life. But whether the CFL starts before us or not, I don't think it really matters. I think for us, we're just hoping that things get back to normal and we could just this curve could start going downwards.
Right. Well, and for sure. I mean, health is paramount. And I think with those teams I was talking to, a lot of their funding hinges on CFL games. Right? So it has to do with their budget and stuff. It's stuff that the average fan doesn't see or know. By the way, AC, I don't know if you're familiar with our show, but a lot of the viewers write in with questions. So if you're okay as we roll along here, we'll take some from the viewers. But the first one for me is you've done a lot of events out here. And obviously, I know you're still good friends with my cousin, Carter Brown, who I just asked my cousin the other day how he's doing. He says Carter's on top of the world. That's another story. Maybe we can talk about that. But how have you overall been dealt with by Rider fans, given the fact that, aside from Damon Duval, you've crushed our hearts as much or more than anybody else?
Well, I think there's appreciation for the game, and I think just for myself, I think things changed when my wife got sick with cancer. Then I went through cancer. I think people just looked at us differently. That we were normal human beings that go through the same stuff that people go through, and for us, for myself, I was able to play for so many years. But I think that those two things that happened in our life really changed the way people looked at us. And I, throughout this country, it's been awesome, but especially there in Saskatchewan, where the fans have, once I retired, I've been out there probably about 10 times to do different speaking engagements and different charity events, and it's just nice to hear that type of feedback from people.
Oh, there's no doubt. And some of those events I've done with you, and as you know, you just said it, they respect the game so much here that they understand that you were just doing your job. But I do remember the 2010 Grey Cup. I remember after the game, that was when you revealed your health status. And somebody had said to me, well, how was Darian's hamstring? He was playing with a hamstring pull in the playoffs. I said, AC was playing with cancer, so don't talk to me about a hamstring. By the way, how is your recovery, by the way? How is your health as we sit here today?
Health is fantastic. After I had my surgery and, I got back to normal. I take my medication, my Synthroid pretty much every day. But other than that, life is back to normal. That, the cancer scare did not slow me down in any way. I was able to get back, of course, and play football. But the most important thing is I was able to have a normal life. The only thing that I have to do differently is just make sure I got to take this Synthroid for the rest of my life.
AC, you're a pro's pro. Here's one more from me, and then we'll turn it over to the fans. From coaching pros to coaching university athletes, what's the biggest difference for you as a coach?
Well, I think just going into coaching period, there was an adjustment period because I had this vision of things to how I was able to do it. When the coach told me, okay, you got to do it this way, I did everything in my power to make sure it was done that way. So I had to make sure that I wasn't asking too much of the players, whether it was a professional player or whether it was a young college player. I had to make sure that I was able to see the game through their eyes. Be patient. Make sure that I do not ask too much of them, but also know how to push them to get past their limits. So whether it was professional or college, that's what I keep in mind right now. The biggest thing going from professional to college is we don't play as many games. So there's not all these crazy concepts or crazy plays that you got to come up week in and week out, just because there's less amount of games that you have to play.
John O'Flynn in Vancouver is watching, Anthony, and he says, I love this question. AC beating out 13 other quarterbacks to be the starter with the Las Vegas Posse in 1994. How does that rank with all other accomplishments? How did you do that, AC? How'd you win the job way back then?
You know what? It was pretty scary at the beginning because, the coaches were telling me, listen, you're going to get a chance to compete and start for our football team. But I was like, you're probably saying that to the other 12 guys as well. So I was just very concerned because you didn't have a lot of reps at the beginning with so many quarterbacks, not at the quarterback position, but all positions. You really had to take advantage of your reps. So I've always been able to study the playbook and learn as much as I can. So when I did have my 4 or 5 reps, that I was able to not have too many mistakes. So I think that helped out there at the beginning, just knowing exactly, okay, this guy's putting in this time and effort to know the playbook when he's competing against the other 12 quarterbacks. But man, it was scary because every other day you would get a phone call and they're either calling for you or your roommate. And I remember being in my room and got the phone call and they asked for my roommate and they released him. So it was, when you're going through that, you just don't know what to expect.
AC, that's super cool. It's Darren Dupont here. What was that Vegas experiment like from your eyes in the league? And could you really cash your checks in casino chips? Was that a real thing?
So for camp, we actually stayed at the Riviera Hotel. That's where our camp was located. So, we would practice once at Sam Boyd Stadium, which was about 30 minutes away. And then our second practice will be in the parking lot of the Riviera Hotel. They actually put a sod grass down on the concrete, and that's what we practiced. So it was pretty bizarre. But again, this was my first year playing professional football. So living on the Las Vegas Strip, eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the casino was normal, and then practicing there in the afternoon. So for camp, the rookies only got like $35 cash, so we got that. But once the season started, they would give us our check after the game, and you had the option to go to the casino and cash your check there at the Riviera. So you could either get it back in cash or get it with chips. It was your choice.
Hey, see, I just finished the book on the Stallions, by the way. It's awesome. If you have any time at all to read any books, you probably do. That would be one that you'd like. They just had a reunion. I didn't know that, of the team. So what's it like with Las Vegas Posse alum? Do you guys, keep in touch, or who are some of the guys that you are still friends with?
There's one in particular, a guy named David Maeva, who played in BC after and played in Winnipeg. He's from Hawaii. We became very good friends. So I would spend some time with him out there in Hawaii. But off the top of my head, that's pretty much the only one that I kind of keep in contact with on a normal basis.
Jack Fulton's watching in Calgary. He says, who was the one defensive back that gave you the most trouble in your career?
Well, let's see. There might have been a couple, especially early on in my career. There was Les Smith? I can't recall at the top of my head right now. But I remember he was one. I apologize for not remembering his full name right now. There was another guy who I played with. Last name was Carter, that picked me up a couple times, and then I always had a lot of respect for Dante Marsh and Ryan Phillips there in BC. Those guys were so good, and of course I can't forget Baron Miles. But by that time he was already playing free safety. By the time we were playing against one another.
Our producer Clark has a question. AC, you played with hundreds of receivers in your career. Was there one guy you wish you could have played with, but never did?
That's a great question. I really haven't thought about it, but there's certain guys during my time where I played that you just had a lot of respect for. You have G. Roy Simon, you have a Milt Stegall. Those two guys that stand out in my head right now. But believe me, I was very happy with the group of guys that I was able to play with there in Montreal for over 16 years.
Well, and speaking, by the way, I'm trying to look up Les Smith as we go here. For certain, Les Brown is
Les Brown, yes,
all-time picks leader. And if you know Les, he'll tell you, he'll remind you in case you didn't know. But Anthony,
funny, yeah. I'm sorry, Rob. Funny story now. It's coming back to me, and I do apologize to Les because I remember one of his last interception was against me, and he had me sign the football, and I remember signing it for him, and I was very upset after the fact. But I'm pretty sure his last interception was against me because I did sign a ball for him.
Well, that is so Les Brown. He is the flamboyant pro football player. I love Les. That does not surprise me that he would have you do that. But we had your boy Ben Cahoon on not that long ago, Anthony, and he's repping these G2G protein bars. By the way, have you had them? Are you aware of them?
I am aware of them. He was actually here in Montreal sometime in the last few months to do some sales and some activity here. So we had a chance to catch up and have some dinner.
They're so good, and they're a sponsor of this show, and we're in touch with Ben quite regularly. But can you explain the chemistry between you two? I know you've probably answered that question a million times, but I've never answered it or asked you. What was so special with you two?
Well, I mean, we started the same year here in Montreal. We both got here in 1998. And, when you're rookies or you're just arrived to a team, you're usually on the scout team. And we spent a lot of time together in that aspect. And, we kind of both worked our way into the starting lineup and then had a great run. But I think once you play with a receiver for so many years, even though we played in so many different offenses, you kind of just knew what he was thinking. I knew where he was going to come out and break. I knew that if I put the ball anywhere in his radius, that he was able to catch the ball. But I think it just came with time, and then we built a relationship outside of football. So I think it was just a great experience to have somebody to play with for so many years and have so many great memories.
Well, AC, we'll let you go other than to say it's sure nice to see and chat with you again, and I appreciate all you do. And now the more that I think about it, you've gained so many fans here in Saskatchewan, one being Carter Brown, and who's doing very well, again, like I say. So I appreciate that, the connection that you've made. And so overall, things are good with you? No complaints? Everything's good in the world, AC?
Listen, we're healthy right now. We're going through a very difficult time, and we're watching the news. And the one thing I always see is, they're always showing numbers of people who are either sick or people who have passed away, but there's always a name, a face, a person behind that number. And let's just not forget that. Let's do what the government's asking us to do so we could get through this as fast as possible.
Great way to end it. Great message. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate the time, and stay safe.
I appreciate it, Rob. We'll see you guys.
Anthony Calvillo joining us from his home in Montreal.
You're watching Rod Peterson On Demand. For more of The Rod Peterson Show, visit rodpeterson.com or follow Rod Peterson on social media.